Hey everybody, Cutroneo here, and welcome back to my video progress series on Saudade No. 3 by Dyens. This is video number 9. So what you just heard was the first performance of the piece, and before I start getting into details about the piece and the practice in general, I just want to sort of go over something that sort of was the overall feeling of my practicing for today. And that was, I was totally not into practicing today. I don't know what it was. I was just not motivated. I wasn't engaged. And I really felt that throughout the practice. I thought the first performance actually went somewhat well. I think that there were sections of the performance that I was really, really pleased with. There were other sections that were a little bit sloppy that I would consider, needed to be touched up on and everything. But overall, I was pretty happy, generally speaking, with that first performance. However, getting into the nitty-gritty, working on the piece, I felt just uninterested, for lack of a better word. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is that this is a very common thing that I go over with students, which is you're not going to be inspired to work on the piece every single day. It's just not going to happen. To be honest with you, I'm surprised it took this long. This is the 10th day in a row of practicing this piece, and I'm surprised it took 10 days. It took almost 2 weeks before I was like, you know what, I'm just not feeling it today. Usually, a student who isn't feeling it will just not practice. They don't feel like practicing, so they don't practice. When you're at college, when you're, majoring in the instrument, you don't have that option because you have deadlines to meet. You have a lesson every week, and every week there is an expectation of development and there is an expectation of progress. So you have to learn very early on to be productive even when you're not inspired to do so. And this practice session for me was the perfect example of that. So what happened? So like I said, the performance was pretty good. There were several things that I was sort of generally unhappy with, and I would argue that there were these unhappinesses within what's happening in the piece are pretty consistent if you go back and you look through the days, through the different videos. The first thing is the inconsistency of certain area. While I liked the first two lines and the phrasing and the movement of those first two lines, and I actually thought accuracy-wise it was probably some of the better playing, after that I just felt a disconnect in the performance. I'm still not engaging myself rhythmically as I play the third line to I think it's like the 7th or 8th line, where I have this thing, that thing, and then this. So I still feel a disconnect there. I'm sort of playing it, I am counting it in my head, but ultimately I feel that there's a disconnect between how I practice it when I count it and how it comes out when I'm counting in the performance. I feel that there is a big disconnect there. And that's just really frustrating and really uninspiring for me, right? The days and days that I've been working on it, it's just not solidifying itself the way that I want. Along with that, this lick, while I just nailed it right there, in the performance you'll hear that it wasn't amazing. It was the landing on that note. And the left hand landing here, there, that's not working the way that I want it to. And even that wasn't how I want it to be working. In going into another section of that didn't work is before that, this part where I have the fast licks and the slur with the pinky. That's coming along, but I'm still not thrilled with how that's working. Going on into the dance, the second section of the piece, overall I thought that was pretty strong. The memory on the section where the left hand is playing the melody with the slurs from nowhere, Still needs some work. There's still a little bit of coordination, memory issues with that. To me, I think it's more rhythmical than it is note-wise. But that's a section that I needed to spend time on. Also, just cleaning up the visualization memory of everything before that. And there were slight little memory slips in the performance, of the that section needs to be just solidified a little bit more. Just playing some wrong notes that didn't happen the previous time. So focus-wise for my practice, to me, I think this was probably the most unfocused practice session that I had on this piece so far. I think part of it was just I did not really engage. I didn't really have a solid game plan for working on all of the areas. It felt a little overwhelming that there are still these little inconsistencies. And they show up in the performance video as well. Going on to the third section, reading-wise, it was fine. I realized that the 16th note, quarter note metric modulation, this thing, that's actually going to be a faster tempo coming in. So rhythmically, I spent a lot of time reinforcing things, and I didn't get as much accomplished as I thought I was going to. This whole part was way more complicated for me to wrap my brain around than I initially had thought. This... that last little bit, that whole thing came in pretty easily. It's the rhythmical, this tango rhythm bum, while I'm actually hitting 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 1, and 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and. So I'm doing that pretty straight rhythm on top, and the thumb is controlling this tango bass line, and that just really messed with me, and took me a really long time to just get the coordination of that. So just in general, I ended pretty much 2 pages into the second page of the third section, and I think that, along with just sort of feeling like I wasn't really going down a specific direction, really led me to not really feel all that great about this practice session. I was still productive, but certainly the performance that you're going to hear is not the best of the piece. Not the worst, but it's definitely not the best. During that performance, I didn't really feel connected into the music as I was trying to play it. I kind of just felt like I was somewhere else. And there are times where that stuff's going to happen. But again, I was still productive in terms of the fact that I learned new music. I worked on the memory of the third section. It just wasn't what I wanted it to be for today. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The fact that I was still able to work through and be quasi-productive is important. So before I go on and share with you what I'm going to do tomorrow to kind of combat this issue that I feel I had today, let's take a listen to the second performance. So as I said before the performance, felt like an off day today, and I think the performance kind of showed that off dayness. And right now, any small little thing is going to have a drastic impact on how I play the piece. Not really feeling like I'm on my game, not really feeling like I am connected to what I'm playing, is going to make the performance not be the best right now. Part of my goal is to be able to overcome that. As the piece gets ready for performance, I need to be able to play this piece at a certain level, whether or not I'm really engaged in what I'm doing, or if I'm feeling a little out of it for the day. Because sometimes I may have a concert where I need to play the piece, and the audience doesn't care if I'm having a bad day or whatever. They want to hear my best playing that I can give them. And so that's something that I have to overcome. Now, for amateurs, for non-professionals, you have the luxury of not needing to worry about that. However, ultimately, where it becomes something to worry about or something to work on is that learning to work through being frustrated, through being just not motivated, will allow you to continue to be productive. Yes, for anyone who's not doing this as a profession, music is a hobby. It is just a passion of theirs, and you don't want to lose the passion. But for me, and for all of my students and all my students that are recreational players, the enjoyment and the excitement comes in your playing, right? So while I enjoy practicing, the real joy that I get out of music is what I'm able to do with that piece once it's learned. It's not the learning process of learning the notes and everything, but it's finding all these musical things and being able to share these musical things, whether they are with my friends, with, sharing it just with myself in a performance, or sharing it with others. And when you have lessons, learning how to overcome this is really important, I think, because now, even on an off week, on an off day, you can still feel productive, and you don't have to feel defeated. Today, I'm setting very specific goals that are assigned time allotments. So the first thing is that I'm spending 10 minutes on the first section, and I'm going to spend 10 minutes on the second section. Each one of those sections, I will have 2 aspects of the piece that I'm going to be focused on for 5 minutes each. For the first section, I'm going to spend 5 minutes on counting the lento section from this part from there all the way to this thing. Do that to there, this, all the way to that part. So that's 5 minutes right there that I'm spending on that large section. The goal is, or what I'm going to be doing, is I'm going to be counting that section and really building up phrasing-wise exactly how I want that to be played. Any technical issue that I encounter, any problems that come up, I will deal with it during those 5 minutes of practice as well. I know in setting that goal, I am not going to get through that section in one day. That's okay. That is going to be a multiple section goal, a multiple day goal that I work on probably for at least for the rest of this practice week to really see development in. The second thing that I'm going to spend 5 minutes on is this lick. I'm going to spend 5 minutes drilling that out, really making that feel comfortable. That, I think, is the weakest part technically of that first section. In the second section, the dance section, I'm going to spend 5 minutes working on the left hand melody alone. That part. I'll be singing letter names, counting the rhythm, and being aware of the balance of the left and right hand to make sure the melody comes out clearly. Another 5 minutes is going to be spent on memory work. I'll be working on the whole dance section, singing letter names and building it up phrase by phrase. Something that I found is that I just can't go through and sing the letter names without tripping up somewhere. And I'm really going to work on reinforcing that. Even though I can play the piece relatively decently, those letter names are really the linchpin for that section. I'm going to do the same thing with the rhythm. Again, both of those, the first goal with the left hand slurs, I might be able to accomplish the whole thing in one day, doing letter names and counting. But for the whole dance section, that's definitely a multi-day task to even get up to be able to do the whole section that way. I know that going in, that there are going to be some things that I'll be able to practice completely in a single day and do that several days. And there are going to be things that I build up over the course of several days before I can even accomplish that goal all the way through. In the third section, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm not going to try and learn more tomorrow. I think part of the feeling that I had going into and at the completion of my practice is that it was very sporadic, and I felt, I think, a little bit overwhelmed with that third section. So my goal for the third section is to just solidify what I have. I'm going to spend 25 minutes on that. So that means I'm spending 10 minutes solidifying what I had from what I had prior to today's learning session, and I'm going to spend 15 minutes on the new stuff that I worked on. This is going to be rhythm. This is going to be letter names of the melody. This is going to be building up phrases and getting consistency with them. These three things, I really didn't feel like I focused on doing that with this. So to me, what's really important is that I have a very clearly defined game plan of what I'm going to do tomorrow when I practice. And I feel that with those areas of focus, I'm going to be able to be way more productive. And I'm going to sort of pull myself out of this fuzzy, nebulous area that I left the practice feeling. Looking at the overall goal, the long-term goal of a performance of this on June 30th, I'm way on track, okay? Just because I am taking tomorrow as sort of a regrouping day, I still have the rest of the week. I still have, this is video 9, so I have 5 more videos to do. So 4 after tomorrow's video. Do I think that I'll be able to complete this whole piece by the end of this upcoming week after the week 2? Probably not. My goal will be to get to the lento section on the 3rd page by the end of this practice week. So looking ahead in the piece, there are 8 more lines of music to learn before that lento section that ends the whole piece. If I learn 2 lines of music a day, at the end of those 4 days, I will have the whole thing learned. It's not bad. That's still taking my sort of regrouping day tomorrow. So these aspects of practice are important, I think. And for me, this is a really important story for me to share with you because, again, it's one of those things that we don't often talk about and we don't often reveal. Sometimes we may feel guilty about it. Sometimes we may just feel like it's us. But 9 times out of 10, we've all been there. We've all felt it before. And you have to learn to overcome that. You can't allow, very easily, that feeling can grow and expand and start to become an unproductive week where I'm just not going to practice the piece at all. Making this video and practicing for this day was probably the hardest video for me to make. I'm kind of feeling a little bit the pressure of having a daily video to release every day. That's a little hard. There's not a lot of, fancy editing going on here. I'm pretty much just talking to a camera and editing a handful of pieces together. I'm not doing any fancy camera work. This is really, low-tech guerrilla videoing here. But there is that little bit of stress of every day there's going to be this video. That added pressure is kind of also holding me accountable to continuing this process and not taking several days off from the piece. So it's a sort of work through, and it could be very easy for me to say, oh, never mind, I just won't do it. But I know that will turn into several days of just not doing it. So part of this is also my commitment to you, my subscribers, and everybody watching regularly, that I'm working through this and continuing on. But tomorrow, I'll be back with another video, hopefully feeling way better about my practice session than I did today. Again, remember that if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel, hit that bell notification button to be notified of a video whenever I release them, which is daily. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and write down in the comments below how you felt after bad practice sessions, what you would consider a bad practice. How do you overcome not being inspired to work on something? How do you force yourself? How do you get yourself to keep going? It'd be great to open up a discussion and dialogue about this. I think that this is something that we don't often talk about. I know that sort of as a professional, we kind of want to have this air that we know what we're doing and that we sort of never have issues like this. Don't want to show this weakness, but I think that this is an important discussion to have. So I'd love to hear your comments on the matter. I'd love to get your feedback and hear what you do when you encounter these kinds of issues. So I'll see you guys tomorrow in the next video.